Hello and welcome to Gravitas Wins Conversations. My usual circle of friends are all from software companies. For us, the toughest situations are man made. Maybe there is an escalation from the client and manager is asking for a daily update. That's why I'm excited to talk to my guest today. He has been a captain in the merchant navy where he has to navigate through nature's fury. I plan to discuss how he dealt with risks and what his opinions are about leadership on the sea. Let's get to the conversation. Hello, Opu. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me into this. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning. Most of us, we do not know about merchant navy. Can you please explain what merchant navy is? How is it different from regular navy?
Yeah, it is actually part of the maritime industry. Merchant Navy actually comes into the maritime industry, and the maritime industry is something that whatever happens at sea. So you generally separate it into different sectors, like the defense sector, the commercial sector,
Hmm.
and the ocean research sectors where all studies happen at sea. Okay, so we are into the commercial sector. We basically are into the world trade. So, in fact, this is one of the this contributes to the world economy. I mean, it is one of the indicators on how the world economy is performing. So
Hmm.
this can be used as an indicator basis how the cargo is moving and what is the quantity of cargo is moving and in what direction it's moving. So merchant navy is in a small thing that trading cargo from one place to another, and in fact transport of people also from one place to another.
Okay. That seems interesting. How does anyone get into merchant navy?
It is well regulated. I mean, it is not something that where it's a different industry where you can just come into picture, but it is very well regulated. The International Maritime Organization has put everything in place on how it can happen, but this was not there. Why I'm saying it's well regulated now is it wasn't there maybe 50 years back or
Hmm.
60 years back. Things were different, but at this moment, it is quite well regulated, and every country has its own regulating authority. Like for
Hmm.
India, we have the Director General of Shipping, who have kept things in place and who have got instruments in place to regulate this properly, making sure that seafarers are properly concerns are properly addressed. And we have colleges, maritime industries, all of them are recognized by the DG Shipping of India. And similarly, in other countries, we have got other regulating authorities.
Okay.
So we actually can get in touch with these colleges and maritime institutes to see what is the requirements, how we can come into picture, and how we can progress. Why I'm saying this is for every rank, it's different. I can pick up
Hmm.
one rank and talk about it, but then for every rank, there will be a deviation. It's a little bit different. So that's where that it's better. If you think that you need to get into a deck side, deck department, then it is slightly different. Your medical requirements are slightly different. And
Uh, can we talk about, let's say, for example, when do somebody get qualified at all to become a merchant navy, to get into merchant navy? Is it after 12th or is it after some kind of a graduation?
okay, I'll take myself for example.
Yes.
Like I did my school, I finished my school in '95, and then with the minimum requirement of marks, I went into one maritime institute. And for me, it was a little bit easy and simple because my father was a master mariner, so he
Hmm.
knew kind of how things are moving around. So, but not everyone may be fortunate like that.
Hmm.
So in my case, I went into a maritime school, and there I did 1 year in India and 1 year in UK. So end of 2 years, I am supposed to doing internship program on board the vessel.
Hmm.
So we call it as internship, but then as in layman terms, but for seafarers we call it as cadetships.
Hmm.
So we were sailing as cadets for almost 2 years. And after cadetship, then we come down, we do our exams recognized by one of the authorities. I did it from UK. where the Maritime Coast Guard Agency recognizes it, and it is accepted everywhere in the world. Similarly, DD Shipping of India, it regulates it in India, and they accept all throughout the world.
Mm. Okay.
After that, I become a third mate, and then I'm supposed to do another exam to become a chief mate, and then the third exam is to become a master of the vessel.
Okay. So
So
you said you, after the internship, or rather during the internship, you went into shipping and you are on the sea. And I'm assuming as a merchant navy, a mariner, you are always on the sea and away from the family. How do you keep your emotional and psychological balance when you are away from the family?
it is it's very difficult. It is, for example, again, uh, going off home and staying in a hostel itself. There is a challenge
Yeah.
of keeping your emotional, psychological balance. But here you are completely at sea, and then you got people of different, varied age difference and
Mm.
varied experience, and you may not, it's very difficult to find a person who will synchronize with you. And especially I was there and I was the only cadet on board, and I was 19 years old, and my third mate was about 40 years old, and the second mate fortunately was around 23, 24. So I was able to link up to them, but then again, I was a trainee, and then it is difficult. But fortunately, the thing is, they gel up quite well. All seafarers, they generally gel up quite well, because all of them are missing their families.
Mm.
All of them on high seas, they are there for a purpose. They love their family, and then they do need to take care of something back at home. And somewhere they are definitely missing their families, and then they take their colleagues as an extended family,
Mm.
and that's
Okay.
where the
So
relationship builds.
since everybody is in a similar boat, so to speak, so they kind of extend their helping hands to each other, I suppose.
They have to. If you need to survive, you really have to do that. Otherwise, you are making your own life difficult, because the environment is such that it's physically demanding. I mean, it's
Mm.
physically very demanding, because you are not on land where nothing moves.
Mm.
Every time while when you're sleeping, also things are moving. So you need to get used to sleep when the ship is moving. Okay, so there are it's a hazardous environment altogether. It's all steel everywhere, and if
Mm.
you're not careful about things, you're going to enjoy yourself, especially with long working hours and with stress and fatigue around. You are definitely looking at something happening to you, and you know how the medical health care is there on board. It's very restricted environment. You
Mm.
can provide first aid, but then you cannot address every concern.
Mm.
So fortunately nowadays we have got a show support on doctors come in and tell us, but it wasn't like that before.
Okay. From everything that you are describing, it seems to be nobody should be getting into merchant navy. Why would anybody get into merchant navy?
Passion, I would say
Mm.
that if you are adventurous, if you have the passion, I purely entered with my passion. No one forced me. I
Mm.
saw what my father was doing. I loved what I was doing. There was some style in it. There was some passion in it, some adventure in it, and I thought that it is still a fact that it is very interesting life. It is
Mm.
definitely interesting life. You will not get the same problem again. If you're looking at solving problems, that is one place, and it keeps you thinking. It makes a lot of innovators into picture. You will
Okay.
find
So
that.
you talked about that problems, right? Can you tell me a challenging problem that you faced while you were at sea?
I would innumerable. As I said, every day creates one new problem.
Hmm.
So it is. I can not specifically mention one, but one interesting thing that I use. I kind of tell a lot of bedtime stories for my kids. So one of those was like when I was a trainee. This was in '97, and the ship was trading between West African coast and the European coast. West African coast, we used to get a lot of stories, a lot of people. I mean, they are there for a purpose. They want to move out of their own country, and they are having a difficult life. So they try to get into one of the ships, travel to Europe, and once they are in Europe, they somehow settle there, and somehow they are taken off, and then they have process to settle themselves down there. So in that hope, they get on board the vessels, and on that ship, it was my responsibility to take care of these things not happening, because if it happens for us, it becomes like we need to take care of the person properly till he disembarks the next port of call, and there may be delays, commercial delays, and we need to spend a lot of money also to safely get him off, and there will be a lot of delays involved in it, because time is definitely money here, especially with container trade. And here in this case, one scenario where I went along with a seafarer. That seafarer was about 60 years old, old gentleman, very nice person, and he was telling me to be careful and to how I can do that search and all those stuff. It's a very restricted environment. I went in. It's a very dark, nothing in hand, and all of a sudden, I just saw two eyes staring at me in front of me, just maybe a few feet away. And I was the only person alone there. And you can imagine that I was 19 years old. And it was like, and I can see this guy is having a knife in his hand, and he asked me,
Oh,
"Why are you here?" I told, "I just came around. I just came for a walk," and he believed it. So, so somehow I kind of talked him through, and I told him that I will help him, and then I kind of brought him out. But that situation at that moment when I was there, I really thought that I'm in a dangerous situation. Because I was alone, and he's looking at hiding himself in, and
mm,
I've just found him. So, and there's no one next 25, 50 meters, and it's a very enclosed space.
mm,
So I had to talk him through, come out, and then we had to hand him over. But the end of the story was my shore leave was stopped because I cannot go ashore in that port, because people start realizing that this guy has found a few people like this, and if he goes out, he may not come back alive. So finally, whenever I come to this port, I am inside. I am kind of safe inside. So this
okay.
is one of the scenarios, but many more different ranks we experience.
Okay. So when you are in that particular spot, you had to deal with the risk to your life. You displayed a negotiation tactic. Are you trained for these kinds of skills specifically?
Not at that moment. Definitely not at that moment. I think that that moment, or at any moment, I would say that the instinct kicks in. Somewhere it comes into picture. That's the real you which comes out and says,
Mm,
okay, let's do this. No, I wasn't trained at that moment, but after that, as I progress in ranks, then there are a lot of trainings which come into picture. They train, the public relations skills are coming into picture, and then we have different drills and trainings carried out for various circumstances. Like especially now, if you see, Gulf of Aden is one place where many things are happening. piracy
mhm,
Piracy was not this high when I entered shipping, but now it is quite, especially in Gulf of Guinea area. And Gulf of Aden was one concern, but Gulf of Guinea is another concern. Here, for these people are trained,
mm,
so we can restrict, we are trying to restrict people to board the vessel with water and other measures. Okay, we do not have
mhm.
any ammunitions or arms on board the vessel. It's not possible to have them. We can have armed guards, but not every time it's possible. So we are trying to restrict them, but once they are on board, we just surrender ourselves, and we expect things to happen, and somehow we get back home safely.
Okay. Have you ever been in such a situation where you had to deal with pirates?
We have, as a master, I have transited Gulf of Aden. We had preparations that drills that we go through. We prepare the vessel. We have barricades kept around the vessel. We train people. We drill them. We assign tasks, and we say that, okay, if this has happened, this is what we are going to do. But
Mm,
beyond this, if people manage to come on board, then what are we going to do? We are
mm,
just probably every vessel has a citadel space. That means one isolated space where no one knows where it is on board the vessel except for the ship staff. We just go in this place, sit inside tight, and just communicate to the nearest navy that we are secured, and whoever you see on board the vessel is not us. So it's all yours. Let us know once everything is clear. So that gives a green flag for the navy to just board the vessel, and then they will arrest whoever they see on the vessel, or
Mm.
they fight piracy. And so the navy is definitely doing a wonderful job on high seas protecting seafarers. And other than that, we try to restrict, and we are trained to protect ourselves, and run shows as smoothly possible.
Okay. So you talked about the drills that happen, and I believe that you will also have certain kind of a rituals for the new joinees to come in and get used to that kind of a life that you are going to lead in the sea. Uh, can you talk about any of those rituals, especially for the new joinees? How do you make? How do others make the life easy or get used to, along with the colleagues and everybody? Are there any rituals like that?
Yeah, the drills that I mentioned was something different, that I will come back later. But the ritual that you're talking about, it's commonly termed as equator crossing ceremony.
Hmm.
Any seafarer knows what equator crossing ceremony is. Probably this started during the British era, and it progressed. And those times the communication was nothing, almost nil. Probably
Mm.
when my father was sailing, we used to expect letters. Or when I joined sea, also it was like letters going on board the vessel. But soon after that, we changed over to email, and things like that happened. At this moment, uh, equator crossing ceremony is something which is not happening on all the ships, but I can tell you what happened to me
Yeah.
in 1997 again. My colleagues, again, they were wonderful people, and they told me that they are going to do this, and I was like wondering what's going to happen, because I've heard bad things about it also. There's a
Mm.
Don't worry, they did whatever I heard, but then they did it in a different way. They did it in a subtle way. They just bald one side of the hair, and then the other side had half hair and half without hair, and then it was painted with different colors, and you have some oil and things like that on you. And then they bring everyone together. They introduce me
Mm.
to the sea and the seafarers. So I still have some photos on that, and it was a good thing for me. I mean, I feel good about it. And after that, I gelled up even better.
Mm.
I was probably like that, with the half hair and half bald with for 2 3 days, and I was receiving pilots and receiving guests who were coming on, and all of them were looking at me saying, "What's wrong with you?" I mean, it's something. It's a new style from India that's coming up. So it was good fun at that moment, and that it is supposed to be like that. It
Mm.
is supposed to be like that, but recently, with harassment things in place, it is there's a kind of a gray area there.
Mm.
And
Okay.
for me, it was good, and it's how it is dealt with.
Okay. So most often, the colleagues that you meet on the voyage, one voyage, may not be the ones that you see on the next voyage. That's what I'm assuming. How do you build professional friendship in such a environment?
As I told you, they become an extended family. It is an
Hmm.
automatic process that happens to seafarers. The day you step on the accommodation ladder, you climb on the ship, you feel that you are already linked to it.
Mm.
The only way that you can survive it smoothly is making it your home. Okay, and I'm sure every seafarer will agree to this. If you don't make it as a home, you are going to find it difficult. I have felt it when I joined when I became a trainee. There are some very senior seafarers who were there with me. Most of them are from Calcutta, and they used to sit and talk to me. And then they realized that I am feeling lonely, and then they were telling me a lot of things and few tricks to handle.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
these are tricks from sea. This you will not find anywhere else. One of the thing is, don't think too much. Don't complicate things by thinking. Make this your home.
Mm.
Think like this. The ship is the compound, your home, and you've got grandfathers, brothers, and things like that. But then don't do the mistakes that you do at home. because your mistakes will be very, very expensive here. You may
Uh-huh.
lose a life if you do a mistake. So if
Mm.
you doubt something, reach out to us, talk to us. Don't think people will not scold you. They will definitely scold you. But then
Mm,
that's
mm, mm,
okay. They will. You turn the next page and then keep moving.
mm.
So that's how it happens. You have to be a family, and we all know what our family is about, and how people are going through and things like that.
So you one of the things that you talked about is the mistakes can cost life, whether it is your life or other lives. And you have been a captain as well, so which I'm assuming you are in charge of the ship and all the other members within the ship. Uh, and then I'm assuming that every day is, as you said, different problems, because you can never imagine or you can never predict what's going to happen on the sea. In that particular case, as a captain, how do you manage when many things go wrong? If one or two things are going wrong, probably maybe you have certain things in control. But when many things are going wrong, has it happened to you? And if it's so, how do you handle that?
Fortunately, has not happened to me. I would say
Hmm.
many small, small things went wrong, but we resolved it. But there have been disasters where vessels have sunk, and vessels have been completely gone off picture because of similar issues. A few examples will be like one of the ships I know, one of the case studies I know was a ship which was at anchor, and her missionary went off. They were not able to pick up the anchor. At the same time, the weather picked up, and
Mm.
the winds went up more than somewhere close to 100 kilometers per hour. We generally talk in knots, but this is I'm talking in kilometers per hour. And their machinery, they were not able to rectify the machinery. They were not able to pick up the anchor, and the vessel was getting dragged into the seashore. And at the same time, when they're trying to use the engines, they had a fire in the engine room, and
Mm.
they had issues with the engine itself. And finally, the vessel broke, and many people, about 9, 10 people, lost their life. And this happened. This is one of the case studies we have to learn from it and improvise. We know that these things happen. From, for example, from something like this, how we come out of similar situations is when the wind starts picking up. We start. We generally pick up the anchor and move away, and stay
Mm.
in deep seas, so we don't get into situations like this, or keep going into a safer place. We don't wait till the wind picks up. It's not that those people did something wrong, but then it's a lesson that we learn, keep learning, and every situation we keep learning, picking up, and then we add up to our experience. And we have the ISM, International Ship Management codes, which are coming in, which has already been in place for last 20 years. And as per that, also we need to document all this and have it, train people basis all these case studies.
Okay. So you talked about picking up a case study, and is it only you read about it and you probably discuss among some of your colleagues, or are there any drills that happen based on that case study?
Um, every case study is, it's an investigation report.
Hmm.
It's an investigation report in itself, and it has its cost analysis and what are the possible corrective measures or preventive measures that they can put in place. So every case study will have it, and basis which process is included into the system to avoid something like that happening again. Okay, and on board the ships, we have a lot of trainings. We have a training matrix completely. So every drill, and for example, a vessel when going aground, what happens? We have a drill for that. Vessel which is taking in water, which the hull is breached, what happens? We have a complete drill for that, and we are supposed to carry out the drill for between every 2 to 3 months or 6 months, or it keeps happening. So
Hmm.
people are trained completely. It's not only on this ship; every ship has it.
Hmm.
There are international requirements which states that what is the time period of drill, and what and all should be included in this drill. And beyond that, we have our own in-house training programs and things like that. So we train people as much as practically possible. We cannot keep, I mean, we cannot overdo things also, but then we train them, we give them enough information. But at that instant, in an emergency, you can see that the skills of people come out, instinct kicks in, and then you will find people doing miracles. Basically, they go out of the way and get things back to order. And seafarers, I would say that they can do a lot of miracles. I've seen many, and
Okay.
it's not that normally they do, but then when it comes in, they prove themselves.
You talked a lot about instincts earlier. For one of my earlier question also, you talked about instincts that you displayed when you were negotiating with a guy who was hiding, and then you talked about instincts now. How do you develop those instincts? Is it because of the trainings?
Yes, I would say I would contribute majorly to that, and I would contribute to what you are as such. I mean, somewhere we say that we need to find what we are and what are we looking at. Most of the time, I find that people who have entered this field with passion. Okay, I
Hmm.
when I finished my class 12, it was a passion for me. No one forced me. I said that okay, I wanted to see the world. I wanted to do this and all those stuff. Seeing whether I really saw the world or something, that's different. But I started enjoying things there, the problems there. So instinct actually comes from there, and you are preparing yourself every day for something. And when you're looking at these case studies, you put that as a small movie inside you and say that okay, what am I going to do if
Mm,
something like this happen? And you just run through things. You will not be able to address every problem, but you know that what and all you can do to prevent this from escalating.
mm.
Or
So yeah, so you talked about, you know, it's a family, it's a team. There are a lot of people in the sea, and any problem that happens, any emergency that happens, it is not only you as a captain who has to act, but there are quite a lot of people who will have to act in unison. How do you determine what role to give to somebody and whether they are capable of doing that or not? How do you determine that, decide that, since everybody is kind of new in every environment?
see the drills and trainings that I'm talking about, they are actually made with reference to this. Like every rank is
Hmm.
given a specific duty. Like for
Mm,
example, you're going to launch a lifeboat. You will have every rank involved in it, and every rank is given a specific task to do to complete this full process.
mhm,
So they have to stick to the task.
mhm,
But we have a backup of even if they do not stick to the task, how the other person should do it.
mm,
Okay, it's not everyone will be familiar with the complete process, but they will be assigned one task each.
mm,
So that is where your leadership skills also will come into picture. Because in an emergency, I think if it's me, I would prepare myself that someone will miss a task somewhere.
mm,
Not only someone, maybe two people will be missing a task somewhere. So I know my people. I know that these people are there and these people are capable of doing much more than what they're actually doing. So I have that those backup plans in my mind.
okay.
We have to run with a lot of backups. I mean, the
Mm,
shows run with probably I'm telling you to do this, but I'm already having a backup in my mind. A few backups I'm
mm,
already in my mind. So that is one of the skills that we'll have to develop. For example, if you are seeing a seafarer, you're sitting and talking across to him, you cannot keep a glass of water on the corner of the table. He will ask you to keep it
mm,
in the center. You say that, please don't do that. I'm feeling very uncomfortable because that's a habit that we create, and it's more of an habit that comes into picture of having so many backups, which may not be required on land, but it comes in.
okay. So you talked about rituals and drills and all of this. So before a voyage starts, would you do this kind of a drill to understand who is capable of what, or you just start the voyage?
If a person joins a vessel new, is first time on that ship, there are regulations which are telling us what to do. There
Hmm.
are regulations which specifically say that if 25% of the crew is changed, then you are supposed to do this before you leave.
Mm,
They are clearly determining what we are supposed to do. Okay,
okay.
and so all those things are there, and how familiar they should be. And other than that, we have a familiarization process also, where we say within 10 days you should be familiar with all these things. We guide them. We have this process to guide them completely for them to get familiarized with things as soon as possible.
Uh, you've been on the sea for how long? I mean, you joined when you were 19. You said how long you were there, and how did you come out of when you came out of the merchant navy? What were you?
I joined C. I did my training as soon as I completed school 95, and then I went first time at sea in 97.
Okay.
And 2013 was the last ship I was on command. And after that, I moved ashore. So I didn't really think that I'll be moving ashore, but it just happened. It just fell in place and happened. And on command, it was good. I had a good time, and I was looking forward to it to further proceed. But at that moment, it was like an opportunity came up, and then I thought that okay, let me make this ship. It is it's there for me, so let me make the ship and progress. Because taking command and being a master on the vessel is something that's the final frontier there. And
Mm,
beyond that, you don't really do much. I mean, being a master is an owner's representative on a vessel. You
mm,
are a representative for the owner, and that's the highest rank there. And after that, there's nothing much, and you have to continuously keep doing that consistently. For me, I've felt that at that moment, I felt that I need change. I'm used to change. I am kind of I become very restless if I don't change the way I work or what how I am progressing to. So at that moment, I said otherwise I cannot continue there, and I have to move in for a change, and that's how I moved in. And again, this is as interesting as things happen on a ship because we are managing ships. We manage ships,
mm,
and every day it's a new day and different problems talking to people. And here the challenge was the style was completely different. I mean,
mhm,
on a ship, I would say that more of autocratic. I would like a democratic environment, but then at instances in emergencies and things like that, your autocratic instinct kicks in, and then you do things. That's how you have to go through it, as per me. But here, the environment is more of a democratic environment, and I have never worked ashore till then. It
mm,
was like
mm,
from school I've been at sea, and then all of a sudden I'm moving ashore, and then I became more of a student there. I was just observing and then learning things. I was more of a intern there, probably a couple of years, and I have to get the full family used to it. It's not
mm.
only me. I have to get my family used to it, and then it took a couple of years. And after that, I continued liking it. It went well, and then I said, "No turning back. Let me progress."
Okay. You talked about being on the sea and then now on shore. What is your opinion, or what have you learned about leadership on the sea, and how is that leadership different on shore?
Yeah, there are difference. The differences are stark. Uh, I cannot handle things as I handled at sea, and
Mm,
but in both the cases, I would say the leadership should lead with empathy. Empathy has to be there. We need to understand people and put ourselves in the people's place. We need to act as a mentor, and we need to celebrate different views. Uh,
mm,
at sea, also, as I told you, you can find seafarers doing miracles.
mm,
There are situations where the lowest rank comes up with a beautiful idea,
mm,
and he says, "Sir, can we do this?" He puts up
mm,
his hand and say, "That's where a democratic environment is important." But then after that, you choose it, and then you change. You put in a little bit of autocratic leadership and say, "Okay, let's do this." It may not be my decision. It may not
mm,
be my opinion or my thought, but I make it from. I put a decision from my side. Okay, let's do this. So celebrating different views and change. Uh, we need to embrace change. If we don't embrace change, again, we are going to make things difficult for ourselves. And the final thing is we need to definitely encourage the diverse in age, the diversified age, and presently diversified gender areas where we have a lot of women seafarers coming into picture. Okay, so life is definitely difficult for all of us. It's not specific to one gender, but then how we take those challenges. So the leadership skill will definitely need to address this.
Okay. So you talked about embracing change, and you talked about there is gender diversification and other diversification that's happening in the merchant navy. Uh, Other than that, are there any other kind of changes that are happening, especially like, say, for example, now in COVID? What's the kind of change that's happening in merchant navy with respect to COVID, and how do you see that it will affect? And since especially I'm interested because you said merchant navy, the trade that's happening is an indicator of the world economy, and I'm very curious on that. How is merchant navy handling this COVID?
It is a very good question, and this is something. It's been a very hot topic for the last 2 years. From ashore, I would say not much has been done, but the seafarers are one industry. They have not let down things. They have worked tirelessly. Specifically, I have been seeing from close quarters on what's happening to their families and how they are dealing with. So, seafarers have done a wonderful job. I would say that they have acted in good faith and they have treated their profession very well, which is not highlighted in many places. It's not really coming up on magazines or news much. There are social medias which are projecting it, but not like other profession. There was we have been trying to make seafarers equal to healthcare industry and
Mm,
get them free passage across every country,
mm,
but that is not actually happened right now.
mm.
Seafarers are moving on transporting cargo smoothly till date,
Okay.
without any issues. But then they are having difficulties definitely to step ashore, to sign off from the vessel and smoothly get on to get to their families. When you compare to the airline industry is slightly different. There are a lot of comparisons made between the airline industry and shipping industry, but airline industry, the rite of passage for the airline crew is much easier, I would say.
Mm,
But for
mm,
the seafarer, it's very difficult. They are like quarantined for what a few weeks before they take a flight from India to the country where they are going to board, and the country where they board, they are being quarantined again. And before leaving here, they have to take a few RT-PCR tests, medical tests, and everything. And after that, again traveling there with all the PPEs and things like that, boarding the vessel. Every country has its requirement, and they have to go through that rigorous process.
mm.
And it's I don't think any landlubber, a person living ashore, can actually go through that. We are going to have a lot of complaints from us, but then these set of people, they move without these complaints, and then they don't even make us feel that they're having a trouble.
Do you miss being at sea?
I used to travel a lot till this COVID-19 came into picture. I used to travel to ships, and slowly it reduced down to traveling to other places. I wouldn't say that I do not miss, but again, what I'm gaining out of it is being with the family. Definitely,
Mm,
we have a lot of pros and cons.
mm,
I didn't tell about it, but the pros are you will see things which no human will ever see when you
mm.
are at sea. When you are on high seas, you will see things that the others don't have the opportunity to see.
Give me an example.
Uh, Seaweeds, ship going on high seas, and then you will see the seaweeds passing across you. It's all like you got stars on the sky and stars in water also. You see as
Mm,
if it's a reflection of the sky. And
mm,
early morning you are on watch from 4 to 8, and then you see the sun rise at that moment with no one around.
mm, mm.
And it's something that it happens almost, we take it for granted as seafarers that it happens to us every time we see it, but then when you start appreciating it, you see that, I mean, how many of them are having this?
Mm.
Your mental health is put in place when you see that.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing compensates for the other.
Definitely, yes. There is always a pro and con.
Okay.
When you go there, you miss your family, which is,
Mm,
I would scale it on the higher side. Missing family is much bigger. But when
mm,
you're here, your family is always there. But then sea is something different that you already did. I always appreciate the seafarers and the people on sea, because I was there. I was there 10 years back, and I know what happens there. So
Okay.
it will never, it will be a part of me.
Yeah, definitely. Would you encourage your kids to take up this job?
I would encourage my, I am encouraging my kids to follow their passion. I will not
Okay.
say that do this, do that. I just say that do it. I don't think that they are too young to identify what they want to do at this moment. But
Mm,
what I tell them is explore everything, and when the moment comes, you choose what you are supposed to do.
wonderful. Yeah. And I'm sure on your all your journeys and everything, there are too many kind things that people have done for you. But if I were to highlight one or two kindest things that people have done for you, what would that those be?
Um, Many the professionally and personally. I think every day I find a kind thing being done, either to me or someone around. So I cannot really single out something, but let me go into the professional picture. Since we are talking about merchant navy, let me talk about kindness on high seas. It happens quite a bit. When you are troubled, you will find kindness coming from a different quarter. People come and sit and talk to you, and you feel that they mean what they are trying to say. For example, I had a very difficult situation when I don't want to go into the details of situation. In 1997, there was a personal issue which happened, but then which generally what happens is some family issue which happens. It comes as a mail or a telegram, and then the telegram is given to the person, and it's for him to read and handle it by himself. He cannot basically do anything much on that, but his mental
Mm,
health and psychological, emotion, and all he needs to handle. In this case, I had the master of the vessel and the ship manager. One person was there. So both of them were there. And when they called me itself, I realized that there's something not, because not many, not always these two meet anyone on board the vessel. I mean, so they call and they started asking about my family. It was a general, a smooth process in letting me know that there's something bad happened back.
mm,
And that time I broke. I kind of they gave me space. They can kind of counsel me, and then later, that many years later, I felt the kindness in them, and
mm,
doing that, I didn't feel it at that moment.
mm.
But when I grew up with experience and things like that, that is where I felt that empathy. That is where I felt that that empathy is required for seafarers.
Apu, from what I am hearing from you, when you experience this kindness from others, that is when you are able to develop this empathy for others because you have experienced it.
Yes, at that age, I didn't know about it. I didn't even know that what empathy means in 19 when I was 19-year old. But
Mm,
then as I progressed, how many schools teach us what empathy means, or
mm,
which is important. I feel now it is very important that schools need to talk about these kind of things. But unfortunately, we don't have many schools talking about it. But we don't really know what empathy means at that instant. But as we
mm.
grow, we experience and talk about it.
How are you teaching empathy to your kids?
Yes, I've started, I would say, very early, asking them to. I'm trying to tell them that they need to make their own decisions and put themselves in their in others' shoe. And everyone can get angry, but then there might be a point of view from the other's perspective also. So
Hmm.
how we can appreciate it, I'm not sure. I don't think they will get it at this age, but then
Mm.
somewhere along the line they may get it.
Okay, so in m- as a mariner, you have gone through a lot of drills for training. Do you have any kind of those kinds of drills for teaching your kids?
No, I do not. I don't. Assure, I don't think it really works, uh, especially when they are kids. I'm just trying to let them be themselves. But whenever I get an opportunity, when I see that there's an opportunity for me to tell them something, or they have a problem and they're discussing about it, then I try and use that opportunity.
Mm.
uh, that way I do. I'm trying to make it interesting for them. I don't want to, because when I was a kid, I don't think many people came and spoke to me about handling problems or things like that. But
Hmm.
there are people, but then I did not feel very good about having long things which I didn't understand about. So for me, I feel that whenever there is an opportunity which comes up, or they come up with an issue that they're trying to solve, or they're discussing about something that happened for on that day, I try and use that opportunity to uh, tell them that you can look at it from this perspective.
Okay. Okay. Final question, Apu. What's your definition of living a good life?
I really have not thought much about it, but for me, why I say that I have not really thought much about it is, for me, planning is one, but then very long-term planning is something different. As far as I see, I think if you are honest and transparent to yourself and others, and people don't look at you in a complicated way, they
Mm.
know that if this guy has something to say, he will tell you. So that itself is, it means a lot. uh, People are not scared of you, but then they respect you, because I took some time to differentiate between being scared and being respected.
Hmm.
So I had one question where when it's 10 years back, when I started asking people, do you are you scared of God, or do you actually respect God, whoever the
Hmm.
God may be? And some of them came up saying scared, and some of them saying I'm thinking. Then,
Hmm.
then I said that definitely there's a difference there. So I think that if I have been thought about a respected person, then I think I've led a good life.
Wonderful. In your definition, or in your own mind, what's the difference between being scared and being respected?
Being scared, okay. I've come down to that. I've found that out. So I
Hmm.
might well explain that. Being scared is not opening up to anything to that person. For example, if you ask me that whether I am scared or respected, whether I am being scared of my father or I respect him a lot, I used to think
Mm.
that I was scared, but I
Hmm.
realized that I respect that person
Mm.
on what he is. I mean,
Hmm.
he's strong, and he may be straightforward, but
Mm.
I respect him a lot for that, and definitely not scared. I mean, it's something that which I had to come across.
So, what's the definition? How do you? You were going into explaining that if you are scared, you are not opening up. So, can you go a little further on that? What's the difference between being scared and respected? Probably even with your own father.
Yeah, I would say that if you're simple terms, autocratic leadership, I think more towards a scared environment. A democratic leadership, more towards a respected environment, where people
Okay.
feel that you are part of it. My
Can
my
you make everybody? Can you make everybody part of decision making?
I think so. I believe, because if you are getting opinion from everyone,
Hmm.
there are people who think that just taking opinion from many people doesn't mean that you are a good leader. But I think that a good leader definitely takes opinion from many, and he tailor makes his own decision, or
Mm.
picks up one and he understands it and then progresses with. There's nothing wrong in it. It's absolutely fine. It does not have to be yours. You take opinion in the right sense, and then you put it in the right frame. I think that is all about a democratic environment, and in a respected place that happens. Everyone feel respected. No one is scared
Okay.
about something, and they move around comfortably.
Thanks, Apu. This podcast is all about leadership. And I think that's a good place to end, where you say, we leaders, we should not be scared, but we should be respected. And only way we could be respected is by getting diverse opinion from everybody, but then tailor make a decision for that particular context. I think that's a good place to end, I suppose.
Uh, One favorite quote that I
Yes.
learned when I was at sea. Okay, one
Hmm.
person told me this, and it put everything in the nutshell. It was said by Moses Ben. Okay, he's a Jewish philosopher. A simple word: give a man a fish and you feed him for a day.
Mm-hmm.
Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So this word has been like the day I heard this, it got gelled up with the leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I said that okay, this is something that it is definitely I'm looking at a leader. So this quote is, I think it has to be somewhere on the topmost things when you are talking about leadership.
How have you practiced this as a leader?
Being a mentor,
Okay.
a leader has to be a good mentor. Mentor doesn't mean that I'm taking classes every day, but then if I can make feel good about, or if I can feel make people that they can come to me to
Hmm.
about things, that itself is a good being a good mentor. So mentoring
Okay.
is something that they should feel kind of gelled up to me and talking to me.
Thank you. Thanks, Apu, for taking your time for talking to me on leadership. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you for considering me and asking me for this. And I'm looking forward for many more within your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Please share what you liked in our conversation on social media and tag us. Also, check out my coaching program, Gravitas Wins. Have a life of wins.